Ole, tensions are mounting around the world as this anti-police sentiment increases. There's new reports of possible additional COVID-19 outbreaks. We're joined again by Cody Snodgres. Ole, Cody, how you guys doing?
Doing good.
Good, thanks.
Cody, yeah, you feeling strong? You were telling us last week you've been recovering from some surgery.
Yeah, we're doing better. Got to go see her again tomorrow, so we just keep doing our best and doing the best we can.
It's basically how everybody is handling the situation. There's been obviously a lot of protests. We were talking about this last week, the murder of George Floyd. Now we've had another shooting in Atlanta that there's been a rush to judgment, no due process for the officers involved. Ole, is this a push to diminish law enforcement, increase chaos, and eliminate law and order as we're moving towards this totalitarian state?
I mean, it could very well be. I do think, though, I've looked at this not very deeply. I checked out a few body cam footage, different angles and so on. This last thing, I think, is very unlucky. The timing is really, really unlucky. But I can't see any signs of something not real happening there. I cannot see any signs of a staged event. It's a very unlucky thing where a black man was found drunk in the car in a I think it was to McDonald's or something
Wendy's.
like that in a Wendy's, a drive-through, and the police knocks on his window. He's drunk but fine, and then the officer says, "Please, can you park over there?" And they start checking him out, and everything is okay. He's until they see that he's got 1.08 in his blood, and so they will arrest him. And so they put the handcuffs on him, and right when they do that, suddenly he just starts fighting them. And this whole thing from being very quiet suddenly becomes very violent. The guy runs off, grabs one of the tasers from one of the police officers and shoot him with that one. And then I think it's the other police officer that shoots him down and kills him with 3 shots. So I don't know what to make of it. It's like when we look at these things, you always have to take a step back and just not get tunnel vision and not see what you want to see. But here, I can't really see anything suspicious at this point. But it's once again very unlucky, so unnecessary that a person gets killed in a situation like this. I mean, I'm very sad he spoke about his daughter before this whole thing happened. So, here we see.
Yeah, it is sad. But again, I mean, we've got this movement right now where if anything happens where a subject is, obviously we don't want the police to kill people, but we also want the public to be educated that you just cannot fight with the police. You cannot take weapons from the police. If they say you're under arrest, that's not the time for you. I mean, resisting arrest is illegal. Even if the police are arresting you for something that you shouldn't be arrested for, if you resist and then go to court and prove that you shouldn't be arrested, you're still going to get in trouble for resisting arrest. Now, this is a complicated issue, and my concern is that what's happening is this movement to defund the police, even if it's not successful, if police officers around the country and around the world are put in a position where they're caused to believe that carrying out their job and engaging with a potentially violent suspect could result either in them getting killed or getting prosecuted and going to jail where they might be killed, we're not going to see anybody wanting to take the job of police officer. Cody, have you ever seen stuff like this unfold in foreign countries that you've been in?
Well, there's similar patterns, of police being heavy-handed and, the Tiananmen Square massacre kind of thing. I mean, the Tiananmen Square event, that happened. You have a heavy-handed police president and a dictatorial, tyrannical government, and then the population has no way through voting or any way else to change things, so they resort to violence and riot. And the pattern's the same everywhere. But here in America, we have the racial overtones overlaid on top of the pre-existing, police state stuff that goes on. And you can argue all day long, Pinochet, in South America, Pol Pot in Cambodia, there's all different levels of this. And like you said, it's a complex problem, and oftentimes it ties into the economic strata of the people. And the poor people are a lot more likely to resist police brutality, say, than the rich. So it's a complex problem, and it does occur around the world in different faces and different forms. But here in America, we're overlaid basically with the racial thing. That takes precedence in these types of events.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, there's been a lot of talk about agitators who are, this was a guy who was drunk at Wendy's. The people in line trying to buy hamburgers from the drive-thru were the ones who called the police. The thing that's upsetting to observe is not just that the guy was killed, which is obviously an unfortunate outcome that I'm sure the police didn't want, but these cops spent over 40 minutes talking to the guy calmly. I mean, he knocks on his window 3 or 4 times, couldn't even wake him up. You cannot be drunk driving around in your car, stop in the line at a drive-thru so that other people call you. I mean, the Wendy's got burnt down. We see this movement demanding no justice, no peace. So they want justice, but I find that hypocritical. How is it justice to burn down a Wendy's?
Oh, it's absolutely hypocritical. And like I said, the racial overtones here in America, they're long, decades long. It goes all the way back from the Civil War through the 1920s, 30s, 40s. There's always been this racial impropriety and injustice, and it boils to the surface like a volcano, just sitting there simmering, and then it boils up like in the 1968 race riots when Dr. Martin Luther King, God bless his soul, when he was killed, and now what we're seeing here. And so many people see what they want to see and not what actually happens. And they're twisting things, and then they jump to conclusions with mob rule and burn down a Wendy's. It wasn't the Wendy's business. It wasn't the people working at Wendy's. They had nothing to do with any of that. Right. And this mob rule stuff where they capitalize on a particular police event and then use it as a flimsy justification to, attack people that didn't have anything to do with it. This kind of thing needs to be punished by criminal law because it's a crime to destroy property regardless of your motive. You can say I was angry or, I was a felon or I was a black guy or what. The reason doesn't matter. It's illegal to destroy private property.
Yeah, and I mean, the big argument that we're hearing against that is that, you can't compare private property to this guy's life being destroyed. But at the same time, the Wendy's literally had nothing to do with it. Justice, in my view, under the current system of the United States, would be to provide these officers with the due process of law. That is, to presume that they're innocent until proven guilty. And I think there's a lot of evidence to show that these guys were as patient and professional as police officers can be. I think the public needs to be educated that if you are going to physically punch a police officer, if you're going to resist being arrested, and certainly if you are going to attempt to take weapons from the police and use them against them, you need to expect that you're going to be shot. It's, everyone is talking about this taser the guy had was non-lethal versus the gun, which is lethal. But in any of these professions, being a police officer, a doctor, a firefighter, these trained professionals need to make split-second decisions that are life and death for themselves, for the suspect, for people. If this guy gets a gun from the cop and starts shooting up the Wendy's parking lot, anybody sitting in their car could get shot. The police need to protect the public and themselves. And when somebody demonstrates that they're willing to fight with them and take weapons from them, the police need to presume that this is a dangerous suspect who will get the gun and try to kill them, right?
Well, yeah, you could assume that. Some people say, Jason, that in our country, in America, there's too much violence, whether it's by the police or it's by radical groups like the Ku Klux Klan or the Black Panthers or whatever your group is. There's religious motivated stuff too. So we're a violent country and we have a lot of guns. And the question is there a way that the police officers could have handled these types of situations, but without the use of lethal force? And that way, that's why a lot of people use the tasers and they have pepper spray and, the psychotronic weapons like they used at the Boston Massacre. They have a variety of things in their arsenal, but they may not be able to get to them. If that taser was taken away from an officer, then that black man denied him his use of non-lethal force. So then your next thing is, if all you've got's a gun left, right, then you're going to do the lethal force. Then the next thing is, why didn't he shoot him in the leg or the foot? And I've had some people ask me that, why did they have to kill the guy? And I said, I don't know. I wasn't there. If I had been there, I certainly would have tried to wound him in the leg. But if it's dark and
right,
with certain situations, the cop might have been trying to do that, and he just missed and hit him up high, and it resulted in death. So there's a lot of things, like Ole's saying, that we don't know yet. And Ole's absolutely right. We don't want to jump to any kind of conclusions. But then again, that's exactly what the people who burned down the Wendy's did. They jumped to conclusions. And they resorted to deadly force too, because isn't burning down a building an example of deadly force? And isn't that the same thing they're accusing the cop of doing?
Yeah.
Can't people die in a fire? Can't the firefighters that come to fight the fire die and give up their lives if a beam falls on them or something happens? So the situation is highly inflammatory. It's race-baited. And I think the pot here in America is being stirred by some very dark forces that are bigger and deeper than just, the race issue. I think George Soros and his minions in the New World Order are definitely adding to some of this. But I concur with Ole that this particular incident in Atlanta, the timing of it was very unfortunate. It could have happened in any city. It could have happened in Houston with the Mexicans being drunk, or white people down in Selma, Alabama, or anywhere else. And it was just an example of a thing that got out of hand. And the police weren't trying to push an agenda. They were just called. They were trying to do their job, and it just got out of hand. And it's sad. And I'm sorry to the families. But you're right, Jason. When a police officer arrests you, I've had police officers arrest me, and I never tried to resist them or pull their taser out, or even though I've trained in martial arts for over 20 years, I never tried to hit them or put them in a joint lock or do anything. I just said, yes, sir, and I let them handcuff me, and I went in. The courts deal with it, just like you said. Now the courts are corrupt, but hey, it's better than getting shot in the street.
Yes.
But I would say also, I have not seen the body cam footage from the shooting officer. That has not been shown. And when he shot, it seems like he was running at the time. So it's very unlucky. Shoot 3 times at a moving target that you actually kill him. That is very unlucky as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if this was a thing that happened by itself, wasn't planned as a false flag. And then the forces behind it thought, oh my God, great opportunity.
Yes.
Let's use the spark and make a real fire. So I would be very interested to find out exactly who burned down this Wendy restaurant, because there's so many provocateurs and so many things going on trying to get these riots going. So I would say it's possibly that is what we are experiencing now, that would be staged.
Well, another thing, Ole, that's a great point. But what about white provocateurs or people who are on the far right, and they're seeing this opportunity of a poor black guy getting shot at the Wendy's, and they say, hey, let's dress up like Antifa. And let's go burn down the thing, and we'll stir the pot even further. That's why it is so important, like Jason's saying, that we need to slow down and investigate things. before anybody starts pointing the finger and they pull the white black race card or the Antifa card or the pretty boys in Seattle, the white group up there. We need to all slow down, because this is stirring the pot, and everybody's emotions are already raw and on edge after being on lockdown for several months with this COVID crisis and the resulting economic. The people around here in Colorado, a lot of people are struggling with their mortgages. They're having financial problems, all on top of this other stuff. So we need to slow down and look at what's really going on instead of letting our emotions run crazy.
Yeah, and what we're going to do, guys, in just about 15 minutes when we get into the sponsor-exclusive segment on patreon.com/lightonconspiracies, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Actually, Ole, is your Subscribestar page up now? It's still waiting for approval.
Yeah.
So people can...
I haven't put any effort into it.
Got it. Well, people can still get the show on Patreon and Subscribestar. And what we're going to do there is we're going to go through the body camera footage. We'll analyze it. We'll look at it, and we'll delve into this thing. There's a lot of people here who are still saying that it was, the police were wrong. The guy was black. They were right. They break it down to those things. And this is another black guy getting shot by white police. But as you said, Cody, we've got to look at these things. Each incident needs to be examined on its own, because for anyone of any race to just say, oh, well, the police killed a black guy and all police are racists, it's exactly the same as the police saying, oh, here's a black guy, he must be a criminal, let's kill him. We can't have that. We've got to have unity, we've got to have due process, and you cannot fight the police. If there's anything that having a platform on social media allows us to do, it's that I would like to share with the public that whatever race you are, whatever country you're in, whatever country you're coming from, when you get to the point that the police say you're under arrest, you've got to comply or you're going to get beaten up. And you might get beaten up anyway, but resisting is just never going to go well.
No.
Yeah,
So
we're seeing here, it's deeper than this. It's a mental phenomenon where everyone is abandoning, not everyone, but a lot of people are abandoning their reason and their logic and their sensibility and their sense of compassion and fairness. And then they're race baiting. And, I know some people in the Marine Corps, I just talked to them yesterday, and they grew up in the projects and they had a lot of black friends, but they're white. And for years and years, they helped their sons and daughters get jobs and everything. And now all over this Floyd case and this new one in Atlanta, they're saying we're going to end our friendship, if you don't support Black Lives Matter.
Ooh.
And the people are saying we just support the truth. We're not racist. We're not white. We're not black. We just want to know the truth and what's really going on. And if there's police brutality, we need to do something about it. And if it's all based on race and lies, then we need to do something about that too. But everyone seems to want to have their cake and eat it too, and we need to slow down and look at things calmly and rationally and with compassion for both the police and these poor black people and any other people.
Police and the public. The key is that we need to have due process and we need to have an organized execution of the law. We can't have rule by mob. In this case in Atlanta, before the investigation even began, the cop was fired. The chief of police resigned. The mayor spoke out against the police, declaring this as police brutality. It's an awful situation that somebody has died in, but the concern that I have is that it's another incident that's chipping away at the ability of the police to maintain organization in our cities. We've seen this disruption of order in Seattle. Some people are saying it's a peaceful street fair. It seems that the police precinct has been abandoned, which sounds really unusual, but we're going to get in depth on this conversation. We're going to go into a lot of the footage. I also want to show everybody some stuff from yesterday that we took at a Black Lives Matter rally, but people are going to want to join us on Patreon and Subscribestar for the sponsor exclusive segment. You know, just one last item here, Ole. I was up at the Black Lives Matter rally in Columbus Circle yesterday, and a woman spoke who really miscategorized this event in Atlanta, saying that the cops were hassling this guy and that they shot him. Totally eliminated the facts that the people in the parking lot called, that the guy was drunk in his car, that the cops spent 43 minutes interfacing with him politely, calmly, professionally, and that the moment that they explained to him that you're way over the legal limit to be driving a car, and said you're under arrest, then he freaked out and started fighting with him. We'll analyze the video in depth and we'll go through it. Anything you want to say before we close, Ole?
Yeah, I would very much like to say that we're going to talk about this this Monday here, and then the upcoming Monday, I've invited an old friend of mine who's an American police officer since more than 20 years, and he is very switched on. He's very aware of what's going on, and he's also a very honest, decent police officer with all of the concerns. So it's going to be really interesting as well to follow up next week to hear from the inside what's going on in the police force.
Yeah, and if people are seeing us for the first time today, you can learn more about Ole and his research by going to lightonconspiracies.com. That's a totally free website. You can access new articles that Ole is posting each day. You can get to these YouTube and Facebook videos that we're doing. You can also access the links that you need to sponsor Ole on Patreon. And of course, there's a store here where you can purchase items, including a hard drive containing years of Ole's research. You're going to want to email him to find the details about that. Of course, Ole's written several books that you can purchase from the online shop. And don't forget to purchase Cody's book, Choosing the Light, in which he shares the dark secrets of the Oklahoma City bombing. Gentlemen, we'll be back in just under 10 minutes on Patreon and Subscribestar. I look forward to seeing everybody there. Thanks for watching.